We're gonna go over as quickly as possible a proposed budget. Under Indiana law, the Beech Grove Redevelopment Commission, as well as redevelopment commissions across the state, are now required to submit an annual budget to the city council for approval. Our goal is to draw up a budget, present it the October 6th meeting, and take comments, feedback from them, and then submit the final budget for approval at the November city council meeting. So what we're going to look at is what we have to pay and what we'd like to do. And so we'll start off with the what we have to pay, bond payments. Bond payments will be $580,000. Just to give you guys a little idea of where we are financially, we should have roughly around $1 million when we're done paying everything this year, sitting in the bank to carry over to next year. That keep in mind, that does include St. Francis. If they lose the property tax appeal, which I'm hoping they do, that gives us a good chunk of money. We have not budgeted any money to spend because we got $343,000 in the spring. And when the November payment comes due, we will get another $343,000. So until that money is cleared and either we win or they win the tax appeal, we will leave that money alone, because if we lose and we've spent it, we will have to pay it back. So that's kind of where we are with that. But estimating for 2015, we should have around $2.5 to $2.6 million in our that the RDC will have at their disposal. And so, like I say, $580,000 of that will go to pay the bonds. And then after that, it's pretty much up to us to decide what we want to spend. Any thoughts or inputs?
You want to go right down the list on what you have
We
here?
can.
Are you extrapolating last year's legal services into
Well,
this
we
year's
haven't gotten
budget?
them all the way in yet, and part of the problem with this year's is we got the Barnes, Thornburg, and all that rolled in, and so I'm not really sure what was ours and what wasn't. So I kind of pulled out that number. I mean, we've got a bill tonight for $11,000 from Lewis Caps. Do I think we'll spend that much? I'm not sure, but
That's a good plug figure, I think, for the
I
sake
think
of
it's
budgetary.
realistic, and, you know, I didn't include Jeff Peters in that, but, I mean, I think, again, with us having legal representation, it's been smart, and especially with dealing with the NRP group and transferring that property, it's been really valuable there. And Janice for her, you know, signage grant and that thing, we need proper legal representation that understands redevelopment law.
Okay. The returning of funds to school, was that a 4-year plan at $85,000 a year?
Well, that was roughly what they said, and I've heard some in the community say we should spend that on redevelopment or in other areas of the city that, you know, it's tough luck that the school lost that. Because what happened, to let anybody who's watching know, is Beech Grove City Schools passed a referendum. And in that referendum was for additional tax monies that residents paid. Well, the way the law was written, they did not get the monies from the TIF districts. The Redevelopment Commission got that money. And it was for 4 years, and it was about $85,000 a year, about $335,000. Dr. Kaiser came to the Redevelopment Commission this year to point out that the law had changed and they now get the monies from those TIF districts, but he had asked us if we would refund back the money that the school district should have gotten. So while the RDC is under no legal obligation to return this money, my stance is, as the redevelopment president and just a citizen of Beech Grove, that morally that money is theirs if it isn't legally. And given the quality of our schools and the job Dr. Kaiser and the folks out there are doing, I don't think we can, I look at this as an investment as well. So that's why I put it down at $85,000 this year. The Redevelopment Commission next year can decide if they want to continue in 2016, but for 2015, I'm recommending that, you know, we can split it too, based on spring and fall taxes. But I think it's reasonable.
I think we had a good discussion about that, as I
do as
recall, and
well.
it's a good, I think that's a good plan.
So we want to leave that in then?
Yep.
Okay, so that works. And then the next one is consulting for a new development plan. Kathy has taken the lead on that, and I'm glad to let her run with that. I'll let her talk about that a little bit.
Well, I don't have any prices.
That's fine.
The gentleman I met with last week, he did not realize that St. Francis was being sold. And what he was prepared to talk about was what his company did for the hospital in Fort Wayne. But I didn't have any information to really give him other than it was going to be sold. I did talk to him a little bit about grant writing, and that is a flat fee. It is not a percentage of the grant money
What was the flat fee for it?
for a grant writer. Whatever he didn't discuss amounts,
Okay.
just that that's how they pay.
I seem to recall seeing an email from Bruce where he used a plug figure between $18,000 and $20,000 for Frank services on an ongoing basis. Did you recall
I
seeing
re-
that?
I
Kathy,
re-
I think I forwarded it to you.
I saw it.
Yeah,
I didn't know
remember.
if that was factored in here.
It was not, I just, again, I picked that
It's
out.
okay.
We can adjust these
No,
numbers up
no.
or down. No, I mean, it's important we have the discussion. I just put them out there so that I remember.
Right.
And I've thrown out numbers.
The company
okay.
that I talked to the other day, that I had lunch with, they want to see Frank's information before they talk about how to put it into a plan and how much it would be.
And I guess keep in
There was no
mind,
dollar sign talked
We
about.
can also, I mean, when we get this budget, we'll forward it to the mayor, who will forward it to the city council. We can also get feedback from them, and I think we can come back, because our meeting's coming up in the middle of October, and we can if we need to readjust this number, because we have more information then, or something, I think we can
No,
readjust some of those.
This is a draft, not a final copy. This is
Exactly.
a starting point for discussion.
That's where I am with it.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to get this going, so that we can give them something on Monday to say, hey, this is what we're thinking of,
Right.
and move on.
Okay,
Cool.
fine.
So do you think 10, or did you?
Let's
you-
go with 10. Because
Okay,
I
fair
don't know
enough.
that we've even discussed the ongoing retainer for Frank
Right.
at the level that Bruce is proposing.
Right.
And the grant writer, the reason I think that's important, because, you know, in talking to the mayor and just in general, even if we did everything the park wants, we're still gonna have around $1.4 million carrying over into 16, which we get all of St. Francis's money next year too.
Right.
So that would bring us back up to about 2.5, 2.6.
Quick question. Didn't we front some legal fees that we were going to get plowed back into our budget?
I've
Have
heard that's
those?
gonna be around $90,000.
Okay.
And I demanded that the NRP group pay for those borings, which
Oh,
that
yeah.
was more of a fight than I thought it would be.
Really?
And they're gonna pay us back
I
11,000.
thought that was kind of prearranged if they got the
Oh,
grant.
it was prearranged, but I got a lot of, would you be willing to split it halfway? And
Really?
I ended up basically losing my temper and saying, look, we've suffered through this land. We've put $400,000 into it over past administrations. You're getting it for free. Pay the 11,000. You would have had to do it anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
And once I put it in that term, it seemed like, okay, well then we just have to go back to our underwriter. I don't care who you have to go to. You're gonna pay it. And
Yes.
so they have agreed to pay it. That will be part of closing, which will be coming up, I believe, either next week or the week after.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
I just want to say something else about the grant writer. He explained to me, it's a big job just on our part to prepare information for them to write a grant. He said, you don't just hand us information and say, here, we want money for so-and-so, and this is what we want to go after. It's a lot of work. It's
It is a lot of
planning
work. I've
on
been
our
through that
part
with other
Before it's
organizations.
presented to them.
Well, where I was thinking about looking for the grant is we're gonna have over 2 million going into for 2016. I was looking to get the Greenway. I still think that's a valuable idea. And again, when you look at greenways like along the Monon Trail and even over along Pleasant Run, homes along greenways go up in value, and they go up probably 10 to 15% over their neighbors who are not on greenways. So that's at an assessed valuation to Beech Grove, and also it's something that people really seem to enjoy. Anybody who travels up north to the Monon, I mean, that's now gone up past Westfield, and I heard eventually it's gonna go up to Sheridan. So, I mean, because, I mean, you know, they're gonna run it to basically where the Monon track stopped, which I believe are in Frankfort, Indiana.
I have a question for Dennis. Originally, when they were talking about a greenway, wasn't that partially grant money that we ended up giving back because we couldn't match it? So who wrote that grant? When we first got that, who would have written that?
I'm going to, I don't know, but I'm going to speculate it was the people from Wabash Scientific who did that.
So that might give us an idea of what we need to do a second time.
Well, if we have all that information and paperwork, I think we got a big start. I
That's
just
what I'm
think-
saying. I would present that to this guy and say,
Right,
One of the things that will make you favorable to the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, is a group that will give you the money for that, the matching grant. We turned that grant back in 2012 because we couldn't come up with $1 million to fund it.
right,
Well, that was a favorable response to them. So now I think what will happen is when you reapply for it, they will be sympathetic to you because you acted in good faith before. So,
well, that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that we can, when we get into the first of next year, we can find out what we need to do and reapply for that. Because I
Well-
think we will have the money, and like I say, it was like almost a 3-to-1 match, I think. Was it not?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
I remember they were gonna give like 3.5 million if we put up $1 million.
That sounds right.
Because it was gonna be like a $4 million project.
Right. Well, Jeff would probably come and talk to us, but we need to have more information on what exactly it is that
Well, I
we
think.
want him to do. My conversation was just general,
Right, and I think the thing is, we've gotta get Frank's report.
and that's
And
what
then-
he said,
And then, once we get Frank's report, Jeff can look at it.
and say, this is how I would put together. He said he would not make a plan more than 3 years out.
Right.
3 years is what he said.
And
He
I
goes,
just think it would be good.
Too many changes.
Because you can kind of, I don't want this to sound wrong, but you can kind of play them both off against each other. You know, because Jeff gave favorable reviews of Frank, but, you know, having a second set of eyes that's experienced in this to look at it,
Right, right.
I mean, I think is not a bad idea.
Well, and he also said there's a lot of work in that, and he said, set realistic goals.
Right,
Be realistic about what you can and cannot accomplish, because the last thing you want to do is set yourself up for failure. We've already been there, and we don't want to do it again.
No,
He
absolutely.
was very interesting to talk to. I spent 2.5 hours over lunch talking to him, and it was interesting.
good. Well, like I say, if you can continue on with that, maybe we can when we get to October, or maybe once we get Frank's report back, because I believe Frank's coming, the 18th or the 20th, whatever day Thursday is this month, that we have a meeting. I understand that Frank is going to present, the 16th, that's right, October 16th. Frank is going to present his report.
Right, and that's what Jeff will be interested in seeing to help guide us whether they can help us or
Well,
not.
yeah, you might send an invite to him just to let him know, and we'll definitely get a copy to Jeff to let him look at it and see where we are.
I was impressed. I really, he had a lot of information, and I told you, his company was hired to help the hospital in Fort Wayne. They had all this vacant space and nothing to do with it. And they went out and found businesses, doctors, and he had an incredible layout of where they were and where they ended up, and I was pretty impressed. But again,
Well, that's
he was
what-
talking to me, not realizing until that moment that St. Francis had been sold. That really wasn't our decision as far as who was
But the
buying
way I
it.
look at it is St. Francis will be working through the redevelopment commission to improve that property and.
He
stuff
will be
that's-
thrilled to hear that, because he thought that's how it should be.
Right, and.
Because his first question was, what are they putting in there? And I said, well, I don't really know yet. I don't even know who bought it. And he said, well, I'd be interested in finding out. He said, because we really did a good job in Fort Wayne.
Right.
He showed me the whole layout.
Well, I like I say, that once St. Francis is officially, or it's closed on and sold and, you know, all that, again, I think it can't help hurt, I think it can't but help us, you know, having that second voice and
Right.
stuff like that. Because St. Francis getting sold and redevelopment, you know, St. Francis has been a key for Beech Grove. It used to be on our city flag. It was a trademark of Beech Grove, you know, the hospital. And it's important that that hospital, in its new life, whatever it becomes, is something that the community can use and support and be proud of.
If I say to this gentleman, the RDC will have some input on what goes in that building, would I be correct? I would be correct to say that. That's where his
Right, I
company
mean,
comes.
we wouldn't want like tattoo parlors and
No,
stuff like
no, But I just don't
Yeah.
want to tell
I
him
think
we're
we're
gonna
gonna-
have a say-so in that, and then find out we're not gonna have a
Well, I
say.
think yeah, we're gonna have, and here's the thing, in meeting with Patsy Boatwright, and I can't think of the other gentleman's name, they want us to have a say. They want us to work on, and I talked to Patsy about this, like having community get-together where we have open meetings to invite the community to talk to them. They want the community involved in this. They think it's important, and I agree with them. I mean,
I do too.
they're on board with this, and they want us to help, and they want the community involvement, and they seem like genuine people.
Good.
I feel very positive about that whole
Well,
thing.
I will email Jeff. He'll be excited for us to have a part in that.
The signage, is that for the high school?
No, that was the signage for Main Street with Janice, her project.
Okay.
I left that in there as a project. I hope we can get to it. It'll be something next year. Again, I think I listed it in our goals for next year.
So these would be subsidies then for the
Well,
property owners?
that's what I understand.
Okay.
Matt, we were talking about doing like a 50-cent,
Sure.
matching grant for new signs, which I look at what Janice was talking about, like the banners. I agree with her. It'd be nice to have nicer signage. Again, it can't hurt to fix up our downtown and make it look nicer. It
Okay.
only adds value.
Okay.
Even if it's just, to me, if it's just painting the front, the woodwork and stuff, or fixing the siding, those are things that need to be done. And that, making the businesses look better, I think is positive development. So that's where that is. And again, we can talk to Janice about it, but I thought I just threw 30,000
Sure,
out there
that's
because
fine.
that seemed like a good number for a first phase for Main Street.
The paving, have we gotten bids on that? Is that a realistic estimate? Roughly
I
a
was
quarter
gonna
of a million?
I was gonna ask our mayor about it, because it seemed for the paving we did this year that the RDC covered, 247,000 is what, we asked for the Parks Department to give us a list, because through the Greenway, the parks are part of the TIF, and we asked them to give us a wish list or their Christmas list, and it contains about 8 things, and we're gonna go through those, but the first one was paving Sarah Bolton Park east of the bridge all the way up the hill, and they had 247,000. Is that realistic? Or, I mean, it seemed a little high to me, but
I think it's very close. The engineers from United, last year, when you guys asked them to look at the Man Drive, they looked at that as well, and that includes the parking lot of the maintenance building. So, and then the parking lot, I think, of the Ball Diamond. So that may be pretty close.
okay, that's different. If it includes the parking lots and stuff like that. So that was one of their requests. The Hilltop, replace the Hilltop restroom building at Sarah T. Bolton Park with a CTX building, which, anybody know what CTX is?
It's very similar to what they have down there now in the main park, except this has plumbing and sewer pipes.
And that one, plumbing and electrical service, that'd be $70,000. Now, they have the parks will need $4,000 to $5,000 to keep the restroom building open. Are they expecting that from us too?
No, when I spoke with Tom this morning, that's interior updates. It's kind of getting in bad shape. It's the Hilltop Shelter in the park.
Right.
It's the little restroom up there.
Does it get much use?
Yeah, it's used, obviously now it's not because of the weather, but during the summer it was used quite a bit.
Okay. Then we got security cameras, $30,000.
We were going to do that, and that was supposed to be purchased with the bond when we did the bond in 2012. But instead of buying the cameras, we bought fire hose, trauma kits for the police officers.
Seems smarter.
And
Do you think the carpet needs to be replaced, Dennis?
yes,
How old is it?
it might be at least 15 years old.
Really? How old is the community center?
92 was retro in 1992.
It's what, 23 years old, 22 years old?
Yeah. Hadn't realized that.
And then one of the ones that I was if we picked anything, I'd pick out of this was remove the pavement from the old tennis court in Sarah Bolton Park and basically restore the lawn area.
That is a very good recommendation.
That is an eyesore. And I'll tell you what, it takes away from the nice looking basketball courts and everything else. You just see abandoned asphalt. And so,
Can I
just
throw out
came
an
through the
alternative
park and
idea?
Somebody's using it as a parking lot right
mean-
now.
yeah,
Do we not have that many tennis players in Beech Grove?
I think they go over to the high school, don't they, Dennis?
Yes, they go to the high school. I don't know, Ron, it's,
Because at one point, didn't they have a skaters park there or something after they took the nets down?
Skateboard.
Yeah. I agree with you, it is an eyesore. I was
It
just
is.
tossing out another option
Yeah.
that, maybe if we repaved it
Well,
and put
everybody I
nets up
knew-
again.
everybody I knew went to the high school. And that's what I've always remembered is they go over there all the time. And I see, even, don't they have tennis courts outside Hornet Park Community Center too? Or are those gone? You know what I'm talking about in that one corner they used to have?
I think that's gone
I
now.
don't think so.
Okay, but,
I haven't played tennis since I had a serious auto accident about 20 years ago, but when I did play, it seemed like the nets at the high school, when I was growing up, came down after tennis season was over, whereas the nets, often in the public parks, weren't nets at all. They were steel with tape across the top. And if you had decent weather in late October or in early April, you could get out and play tennis, whereas the nets that were maintained by the high schools generally were much more limited in their availability to the public. That's what I grew up with. That was not Beech Grove.
yeah,
Tennis isn't really my racket.
Okay, fair enough.
great pun.
We get it.
Would you know?
I wouldn't know. I'm 6'8" and 300 pounds. There's no way I can play tennis. I'd be a
I
joke.
haven't
So
played for years. Not any good.
Okay, okay.
Didn't you talk about, wasn't that where you talked about like a splash park for the little ones? Is that the,
that would be, eventually, yeah, I could see that. I guess any type of water park would be nice, but I guess my thing was just getting rid of it for now.
Yeah.
Because even if you put in a splash park, they're gonna have to take it
Oh,
up and
yeah,
get it
yeah.
out. But I just think doing that and restoring that to a grass area, what it does to me, and what's more pressing that it'll do is, that's another area for a soccer field. Like pee-wee soccer and stuff, and people to participate. To me, it also opens up more area for the fireworks, maybe more vendors or some stuff like that. It just, to me, opens up kind of more possibilities and cleans up the park a little more.
yeah, I agree.
So that was one that I thought was not a bad one. And then we got reestablish the water line from the outfield pit to Main Street shelter area in Sarah Bolton Park. That's $8,000.
That would also be, you might think it's insignificant, but that's a really good idea. We used to have one down there when they had the old restroom down there. But it's outdated and it's, needs to be replaced and it's not as big of a problem to replace it now as it was. As it was 5 years ago. That's a really good recommendation. And see, that helps when you have people renting the shelter down there who request water.
They don't currently have access to water.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation.
Okay.
Do they have to pay to rent?
Yes. Yes.
What does that generate for us annually, Dennis? Rentals for that, any idea?
Yeah, not right off the top of my head, but we don't turn a profit in the park system. So,
The next one was parking lot repair of the Hornet Park Community Center of $6,000.
that is a good recommendation. When you pull in off of Hornet Drive, it's really bad right there where the storm drain is.
Right, it is.
And then new water fountains for the Hilltop restroom outside the park office, restroom in Sarah T. Bolton Park. The Hilltop fountain will have a lockable hose bib, AD accessibility, and a lower bowl for dogs. Would that tie in with the replace the Hilltop restroom?
Could,
You know what I'm saying? That
Yes.
those two could tie in if
It
we did
could.
that. And, save some money that way, I would think.
yeah. That's another good recommendation. I'm surprised they didn't recommend expansion of the dog park, because
I've
that's
never been
very
back there.
popular down there.
Oh, yeah, people, yeah, again,
never-
it gets back to if we can do the greenway, You know, people can walk their dogs.
And
to the
animals,
door.
they have water fountains for
Right.
dogs, and it's quite popular.
And then add a friendly turtle play sculpture, same as the one in Don Chalice Park, to the play area at Sarah Bolton Park. That's $3,300. And add a swing bay, and reconfigure the safe play area in Don Chalice Park. I think those both are not that expensive and give you real bang for your buck. Because again, to go down on a nice evening like tonight, and there's a ton of people at South Grove Park. I drive by there, so I see it. I don't see Sarah Bolton as much as I do that.
I
but-
cut through Sarah Bolton on my way home.
One of the things that isn't on that list that you may want to consider is the construction of a asphalt path that's about 6 feet wide. That South Grove, at Chalice Park, that goes from the shelter to the swing sets and swings for people who are handicapped, to make that ADA compliant. That's not in their recommendation, but that would be a nice idea as well.
Well, I agree, we should make it, yeah, absolutely. For this-
And I would say $10,000 would probably not be unreasonable.
So basically, I added up all the stuff the park wanted, and it comes out to around 407,000. Now, again, if I threw that in, what we have on this paper, we'd be spending 1.137 million this year. Which again, like I said, I don't want to get up too much higher because I want to be able to keep, if we're talking around 2.5 million, that'd leave us about 1.4 going into next year. Because again, I don't know if we have a shot at getting this Greenway grant and we need, say, 1.5 million, I also want to be able to spend more money in 16 on different things. But you know what I'm saying? I want to make sure we have the money because this would be a feather in the cap. Because remember, this Greenway was originally talked about in like 2002, 2003. It was promised to the residents of Beech Grove, and it's 11 years later. So that's just my thoughts on it. I'll open the floor to other thoughts.
So if we add in the most recent suggestion for the ADA play equipment, that'd be $1,147,000.
That's
Does
about
that
where-
still fit within your
I think it'd be close. I
projections
mean,
there?
I don't know what other projects that the city might be interested in. Are there other things that would go into this, you see, Dennis, or?
Well, I
Is this a
would,
good focus for the redevelopment commission? Because I would call this, if represented the city, that the Beech Grove Redevelopment Commission is going to really make our parks top-notch, be the best in Marion County. People are going to love it. I mean, would that be something that our city council would be, you think would be comfortable with? Would you be comfortable with that? Because again, you have a voice in this too.
yes, one of the things that cities are going to now is they're reinvesting a lot of money in parks and recreation. Because when people come here to move, they're looking at parks, they're looking at schools, and one of the reasons that we invested, the money that we invested in the park a couple of years ago was for that very reason, is we have to have presentable parks that are clean and safe, and we did that, but there's more to do.
I mean, the only one that I would maybe push off and we could hold off till next year would be the security cameras. But I think, is this where you think, where you would like the redevelopment commission to look, or do you see any of the areas that you think we need to look at?
Well,
Or is this icing, or do we need to look at the real cake?
no, I want the redevelopment commission to do exactly what you're doing now, reinvesting in the city. And there's several areas. Obviously, I would like to see you pave roads as well. What you're doing right now is really good, and you're making a difference out there in neighborhoods, and I would certainly like to see that continue. Now, next spring, well, right now, we're doing the project on the northwest side, and then we're getting ready to start the reconstruction of Cleveland Street between Churchman and 13th. When that's done, in early spring, we're going to go over to Bell Fountain and tear it out from Emerson to 9th Avenue. So all of that will come out. And that's just part of fixing your infrastructure. If the Redevelopment Commission wants to pave a couple roads in that area,
Will we be able to? Will they be TIF connected?
yes, as long as it comes to Main Street. I think all of you know that the first block of South 8th is bad.
Right.
The first block of North 7th, first two blocks of North 7th are bad. Same way with North 9th. Those are all bad roads. We're getting ready to do some work up at 9th and Buffalo, but those are also worthwhile projects that you may consider. I'm happy with what you're doing, so you just have to continue doing it. You will not go wrong investing in parks. You will make it better for the people of the city.
And it really does draw people who are interested in settling somewhere new. People look at things like the parks.
Talk about the amphitheater.
Yeah.
eventually.
The amphitheater is a great idea.
With as much activity as we have in the parks during the warm weather months.
Are you guys helping with the sign down at the corner?
Actually,
No.
Dr. Kaiser didn't ask us for that. They got a.
Oh, I
corporate
thought you
spot.
were.
I was willing
prepared.
to.
Because I was gonna
We
tell you,
talked
that's a
about it
great
at one
idea.
point, yeah.
as
Yeah,
well.
But he said, I guess they got a sponsor for it, so.
Looks good.
It does.
Yeah.
Again, it's just something, turning back on something that, kind of like the old barbershop pole you'd see at a barbershop, somebody
Right.
finally fixed up.
Well, we talked about one at Emerson at the entrance
Right.
to the high school. The RDC might be involved in that one.
See, and that's where I heard our lawyer Robert talk about, well, there could be issue with TIF on that.
Right.
Can we do that? But here's my thing is if we're returning $85,000 to the school system,
Let them-
that's money they didn't have before, and that could be counted as our investment on that sign too.
Right.
That's right.
So I think that's not a bad idea. I mean,
I
I think
agree.
Dr. Kaiser's thrilled that he's getting money that he should have had all along back and that we're willing to work with him. He said it's been nice working with us, again, and he feels the RDC is a real positive for the city, so.
I'd like to ask a question briefly. The security cameras that might be, as you say, an item that could be postponed, but it was already postponed once, and I'm just thinking, the idea of having some security cameras at the play area seems to me to be really great. If there'd be a way to keep that on there, I think that
I
would
don't,
be.
I don't think it's out of the question. I heard the reason, because I had mentioned security cameras before, because again, they've had acts of vandalism. That's why we lost the bathroom down at the bottom. But I've heard that there's been some civil liberties questions about this and other stuff.
Oh, I didn't
And,
think of that.
I don't know, are we within our rights legally to put up security cameras in a park system?
I used to be opposed to it, but anymore I'm really not. You just have to make sure you're not intrusive. The message is not, we're not peeking in your windows, folks. We're trying to keep it safe.
Right.
Someone said it'd be less expensive to hire a security guard than to have the cameras.
That's a good point.
Somebody mentioned that at one of the meetings.
I remember, yeah.
I don't know who it was, but they said it might be less expensive.
Well, that's something in our purview. I remember that. That's why I kind of didn't, I put it
Well,
out.
even if you put in security cameras, won't you have to hire someone to
Monitor.
monitor the monitors, so to speak?
What
Well,
would
that's
happen would be some of them they tape all the time. And if you don't have a problem and you don't have to go back and look at the cameras, you erase it.
Sure.
Those are good ideas as well.
Well, I mean, we can include it or we can't. It doesn't matter. I was gonna say, I'm sorry, Ron. What's a realistic number you think you say you get back to, say we fast forward on our machine and it's May 2015 and we're all still on the board. What's a realistic number you might come to us with and say, RDC, I'd like X amount of dollars to do these 3 streets? 'Cause I do, like I say, we're at 1.3 and I don't want to get up to where we like 1.7 or 8,
Right.
You can say that you could commit up to 200,000 and that's all.
200,000.
But it would be dedicated to these streets.
Okay. So we
And
can
what
go-
you did this year was 220, and that worked out fine. And that's exactly what's going to get done.
Well, I don't have a problem with that. That
The
would
full
make us,
220? Is that what,
I would say 200,000.
that'd make it 1.347. If we did all the parks and 200,000 for streets, that'd be a lot of money going into the city of Beech Grove. And here's the great thing about it is it'd be going to the residents of Beech Grove. It wouldn't be going to a special business or a tax or something like this, somebody wanting a kickback. It would be
Well, you're
going into-
hedging a safe bet. That's infrastructure.
You
You
bet.
can never
And
go wrong investing in it.
again, and I think the stuff we're doing with the parks will pay off big dividends.
Yep.
Because again, what does it do? It enhances your community, makes it more desirable. If people want to live here, they'll pay more to live here, which drives up home values. If people want to live here, they'll tend to buy homes, maybe not rent them as much. So I don't think we can go wrong with that necessarily.
And then if you find out that your budget can't do that, then the paving, then you take that out.
Right, and where I would caution people who are listening or who do listen is the key will be St. Francis. If we win the appeal, if we win the appeal, our 2015 is 2.43, roughly about 2.5 million, which we're talking about spending 1.3. So even if we spend 1.3, that would still leave us about 1.1, and then we have full money coming in, so it wouldn't be bad. Now, if we don't, we've only got $1 million. And
right?
so then things would definitely have to come out, because Janice's point, I don't want to bleed us dry. I
No.
want to make
Right.
sure that
Right.
whoever's on the RDC in 2015 will have money, that, it won't be, oh my gosh, we don't have it. Now, I think we're going to win the appeal. I'm confident in that, or I hope I am. It seems morally right we should win it after all these years, but you know what? You never know.
Well, this is a first cut at a budget.
Right.
And I would expect it to be tweaked up and down by categories, perhaps some deleted, some added. And as long as we've got close to a 50% margin in excess of what we're planning with on our first draft,
Right.
I think we've got some extra capacity there. We're not taking it right to the wire.
Because I would like to do streets or help streets next
Oh,
year, because I felt good about doing it this year. And you guys know, driving on nice streets, again, it improves home values. And I love these ideas on the park.
We didn't have anything in there about Grovewood Drive. We talked about that.
I defer to the mayor on that, because he threw up something that I thought was interesting too, and I'll let him talk about that.
Well, if you look at all of the roads in Beech Grove, like Sherman Drive, Albany, which is Troy, Churchman Drive, Emerson, those are all, Bethel, I think, those are all under the control of the city of Indianapolis, so we don't really touch those roads. So the three main roads in Beech Grove, in my opinion, were Main Street, South 9th Avenue from Churchman, and Grovewood. Well, we redid Main Street, so probably in a couple of years, we'll look at redoing Grovewood Drive, because that would be a focal point for the south side of our city. And I think it would really look good if it was similar to what Main Street looks like, for those folks who live down there, sidewalks, curbs, and lighting, and a new road. So, matter of fact, I talked with some engineers about it today, looking at doing it, just planning for it. It's expensive and will be paid for over 10 years, but I think it's worthwhile doing. So we'll look into that as time goes down.
That's why I kind of left that alone, but like I said, Grovewood, just the traffic on it's incredible. I mean, it is like an artery to get out to Emerson Avenue and 465. I use it every day because I have to go to work that way, but it gets a lot of traffic. So I agree. I think if we fix it up really nice, again, it gets enough use that it's a positive reflection of Beech Grove.
So, appreciate what you folks are doing.
Well, I thank you for coming and give us the input, because again, I have no problem with this, but it's a big chunk of money. But I want to also make sure that people, that I think it's a good investment.
You know what is another good thing about what you're doing? in the cities with paving and sewers is we're not going into debt to do it.
Right.
We're paying for it. So that's good stuff.
And we're paying down our debt.
Yeah.
We're gonna be, what, 6 years next year for one to pay off and 8 on the other, so we're getting those bills paid off too.
So this infrastructure is being fixed, and we're not going into debt to do it.
And one thing that was pointed out is we got ADM, which had their investment, and what, if they build it next year in 2016, or 17, is that right? 17, NRP Group and their $8.8 million investment will come on the tax rolls, and guess who owns that TIF district? So that's money coming into the RDC, and is it Kinetics?
Kinetrix
Which I,
is also for-profit.
right, and they're talking about major expansion there. And again, with your Churchman project, changing the way they have access to and from it, and making it easier for their trucks to get in and out, that could become as the mayor pointed out, they're talking about 25 to 30 million into that, which,
Right.
again, where does that money come back to? It comes back to the RDC to invest more into Beech Grove. So, in 3 to 4 years, we may be in really, even in better shape.
than what
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, we got to be we got to be hopeful, realistic, and hopefully and positive at the same time. But I think next year this would be this is a huge list to check off on the Parks Department. And I think we'd have our parks set for a number of years.
Do you feel like we could fit an amphitheater expense into that?
I have no problem with that. Dr. Kaiser talked about that.
The only price I ever got was based on the amphitheater in Greenwood Park, which is huge, probably much bigger than what we would need. And the price I got was $300,000 to build that. Wow! But it's huge. If you've ever seen
And
it,
that's-
it's
I don't know
probably
if-
twice the size. And I don't even know, even if we wanted to build something that large, we wouldn't have the room.
I don't know. Did anybody go to the concert in the parks? Where did they have that? Because
In the Creekside shelters, the 3 shelters right in there. They just played right on the cement.
and I don't see why we couldn't either build a stage or something into that. Yeah, I think we could.
I wouldn't have any idea to budget. I guess we could have a rainy day fund.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know.
something we probably.
Until we get
Now,
prices,
here's
I
the
wouldn't know
thing I
how
will
to-
tell you is, this is all Tom's talking to the mayor and me.
Right.
We can't do, that's what the thing, was talking about the ball diamond, he pointed out they own the ball diamond, so even though if we wanted to do something, we gotta go through the Parks Department, so
Right.
follow up with Tom, see if it's
I
in
will,
their
I'll call
plan.
him. I know
Yeah,
Tom very well.
Well, if you know, then follow up with him, and we can always, again, rough draft, we've got the 16th of October. If he thinks it's realistic and we can do it, I have no problem including it in.
I mean, it's just the icing on the cake if we're gonna do all this other stuff to the park.
Right.
Greenway, amphitheater,
If we use your math, and Greenwood is roughly double ours, if we put 150, 200,000 in for one for Beech Grove, I think we're in the ballpark.
the one in Greenwood, I've only been there once, but I could not believe how huge it was. And
Yeah.
it's the guy who went down and looked up for me has done some work for me at my house. And when he told me that, I said, we're gonna have to think about that. I said,
Well, I mean, we're gonna have to, again, talking to Tom and the Parks Department, does it fit into what their plan is? I mean, we want it, but is that what they see for the Parks Department? You know what I mean, Kathy?
Right.
And I invited them to tonight's meeting, but I think I gave them kind of short notice, so I will give them an invite to the 16th meeting as well.
I'll call
But,
Tom.
yeah, call him and talk about
I
it,
know.
and if we can get some numbers, again, we can always, if we don't do it this year, we can find out what it costs and see where we are budget-wise and put it in next year's.
well, I just think it'd be neat if we're gonna do a little bit to the park, to do a whole bunch to the
Oh, I
park.
don't
mean,
disagree.
it's totally noticeable. And I like your idea about some type of
Theater
theater
stuff.
facility in the St. Francis. I think that's a great idea.
It would be really wonderful.
Well,
would
as we
be-
get Patsy and them more involved,
Great.
once everything's settled, that's something we can definitely talk about, because again, they seem very receptive to our community and wanting to know things
Well,
about us.
I'm anxious to contact Green Street, and because this is right up their alley, to take a hospital and refurbish it into other things.
So
I was-
I guess we will work up this budget. The only thing I would need is, and maybe is the estimated cost, which you said was 10,000 for the 6-foot path for the ADA compliant.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I would guess. That's a guess right now.
If you have a chance, could you type that up so I know how to put it in there. But I will try to tomorrow or Saturday, put this up, send a copy to Jeff Peters, and send out a copy to you guys, and I gotta send it to the city council, and that'll be our initial budget. And once you find out the amphitheater, if it's possible, if they wanna do it, we can always put that in.
Okay, I'll call Tom.
Good enough.
Excellent.
Meeting.
Anybody have anything else? Mr.
Well,
Mayor?
we can think of more stuff to buy.
Yeah,
Well,
but this is really exciting. What
I look
a
at
difference
this
this will
list,
make.
I drive through Sarah Bolton a few times, and the road is starting to crumble. And I mean, it's starting to crumble and collapse in certain areas. And I mean, fixing up all that pavement and making it nice, relining it, that's gonna look sharp.
The section from 17th down the hill, I came through there the other day, just patches, came through it today, and they've started taking the
They
layers
milled
off.
it today and
Yeah, yeah.
getting ready to pay.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I would
Looking good.
ask is, I would love to see most of this done in the spring, if we can. And the reason being, I'd like to have most of this, if not all of it, done by the 4th of July, when we
Yes.
have the big
That would be
party in the
exciting.
park.
That should be our,
Well, we would have to
Oh.
start on it at the first of the year, and that way, in April, when the asphalt plant's open, then we can start on it.
Well, then I guess that would be our goal, then, to work with you and to get it going. Because, yeah, I mean, getting this moving on would be kind of cool.
that'd be really cool.
July 3rd could be a heck of a grand opening,
Well,
That would
grand
be a
celebration
great
this
grand
year.
celebration,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
Well, and we have our, what is it, the Clean Up the City Day in early May. I mean, if we had a lot of this work done in the park, I mean, that's again something else that, you know, and then the kids have to do hours now. We can also have park cleanup days where they pick up trash along the creek and stuff like that.
That'd be great.
You know, I think that's something else that, you know, the RDC could buy the trash bags and stuff, or, you know, whatever we needed to do to have it picked up, but I think those are valuable things, because again, I think it just reflects better on us.
Well, we could work with Tammy on that, because we want to
Exactly.
gather the kids in the high school.
That's what I'm saying, we got our
You know.
aces in the hole over there, you
They
know,
have to do community service.
20 hours, she said.
right,
by
for
the end of the
seniors,
year,
and, yeah,
for
so I mean, I
seniors.
just, and you'll find that those kids will even do more, once they're
Yeah.
involved and engaged. Many of them exceed, because they want to do it, so. One thing before we go, we had this, and I asked Dan if we had any bills. We do have a bill, and I wanted to take care of this. It's basically $11,113, and one of it is Mead, which we already authorized to pay. We voted that, if you guys remember, when we did the resolution. And that, they only ended up removing 86 Wi-Fi units and 17 wood poles. I haven't gotten back with the grant yet, but I had authorized additional ones. And then we got our sewer bill for $750, and our other sewer bill for $58.50, which is the rock pile. So,
You
Toby
know,
closed.
Speaking of meat, I thought they were gonna take all the poles down.
They're supposed
The
to.
one behind my house, they cut it in half, took the top half, and the rest of it's still there. Right behind my house.
Will they charge us half price?
I don't know. I watched them work for 2 days, and I came home one day and
see it on
half
the
the pole was still there. I thought, well, we should get a discount. Seriously, I
Let me put that in my
spent a
note.
lot of time working on that.
Wonder why they would only,
They cut it in half.
would not take the
It's
whole
still,
pole.
still in place.
That is odd.
I don't know.
Odd.
I watched them for 2 days, and it said meat on the track. I knew what they were doing.
Well, I'll tell you what, tomorrow I will send an email to Grant, and I will check with them why they did that, and I will find out what the status, because again, we voted another $10,000
I
to
know
cut
we
down
did.
or get
Yeah.
rid of the additional poles, and I've seen them pull a bunch.
Well, I'm telling you, go by my house on the way home. You'll see half
I
of
will
them.
check with them and try to get you an answer on that.
Okay.
So basically, like I say, the one bill we've got is Mead, and then the other two are sewer bills for a total of $11,113. We already voted to authorize the payment for Mead, but this is just the official voucher, so
Okay.
I'm gonna make a motion tonight that we vote to pay the sewer bills and Mead Electric. For-
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Yeah, notice you don't get Beech Grove Romer anywhere, more on your phone.
And then pass that down to Mac.
Yes. Ma'am? I'm gonna pull one of these and I'll give him the city of map. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, well, I got 5 till 8, unless anybody has anything else or wants to talk about anything else. I'm gonna make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All right.
Third.
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for a good meeting. Have a great night.